Well, and here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Straight and Unfiltered. This is Panasenko here. Hope you're all doing well. Great to see you back. Appreciate your followership, all the likes you've been putting on the channel. And we have a great guest today, Malcolm Teasdale. Malcolm is an entrepreneur. He made success from creating several IT companies. One of them was actually sold to a major corporation in 2013. And that allowed Malcolm actually to retire and pursue his passion and dreams of traveling. He has been to a multitude of countries. I believe the number gets close to 100 by now.
It's scary.
All right. And so great to see you here, Malcolm. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you. And appreciate you having me on your show, Gene.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, we've been trying to connect, but between your engagements and the ones on my end, so, it took some time. But fortunately, we're here, and hopefully the audience will enjoy your appearance today. So not to misguide the audience, you're in Florida right now, but this is not a South Floridian accent, right?
No, it's from Alabama, actually.
It's from Alabama next door. Yeah. No, but seriously, I would like you to take us back to, where you originally hail from, and that's where the accent comes from. And then we're going to delve into the rest of the conversation that hopefully will be very entertaining to the audience. All right.
Okay. Yeah. As you could probably tell, I do have a bit of an accent. I'm originally from Coventry, England. It's right in the middle.
It's a great place. Yeah, it's a great place. Yeah.
Yeah, famous for a couple of things, actually. It got bombed to hell in World War II, and famous for the gentleman who invented the jet engine, which was Sir Frank Whittle. A couple of things there. Anyways, I was born and raised in Coventry, England, and my parents were World War II vets. Then I went to...
Thank them both. Thank them both. God bless them. They are the greatest generation that really had different outlook on the world and different understanding of their duties and responsibilities. So they saved the world, and thank them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I miss them much. Anyway, they moved on, of course, and I did live in Ottawa, Canada for a couple of years, and I didn't like what I was doing anyway. The company, I left and joined another one who moved me back to Great Britain. In fact, I moved to South Wales, beautiful countryside, got itchy feet. Then I moved to a company I was working with, decided they wanted to transfer me to United States quite a few years ago now. And that's it. But I've always had the travel bug in me. But when I moved to the United States, I knew that I would be traveling for work quite a bit. But that was all right with me. I was single at times, so it was just fine. But I still have my British roots. My accent, well, it's I'm bilingual, actually. I speak both American and English. Just
and South African and Australian, I guess, right?
Yeah, multilingual.
So my understanding is you're not as fluent in South African as you are in Australian, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I need to spend more time there, actually. Yeah, thank you.
It's another interesting part of the world, yeah.
Yeah, but I have to, my wife's from Georgia, so, that's a whole different language.
American Georgia, right? The one which is next to Florida.
I've had to learn those nuances to become, fluent. Both sides of the pond.
That's a totally different language. Are you kidding me? I have great friends in Atlanta. As a matter of fact, I was attending a business conference right before the shutdown began, and it's a great place. I have some dear friends down there. As you know, some of the major private equity and private debt firms, they are headquartered out of Atlanta, and we had a great time. And they took us on some tours, around the city. Buckhead is one of those famous areas.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I'm sure you're very much familiar with that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good place.
So how did you actually get involved in the business? Because I understand your background is in technology. So I would like you to share with us exactly how you got involved, how the evolution was, and how you ended up actually getting to your level of success, that you created a company that ended up being sold to one of the major corporations. When was it? 2013, right?
2013, yes. Basically, I've been in technology all my life, and
your background, that's what you were educating.
Yeah,
yourself.
Yeah. It's telecommunications specifically.
Telecom, yeah.
And that's a company I worked for who transferred me to the United States back in 1985, just a few years ago. Of course. Anyway. The company was great to work for. I was in a management position at the time, running the technical support organization for Global, actually. And It was down to the time when they had several products, but it was more surrounding voice processing. But they had certain products that they didn't invest time and energy into because they either didn't want to or probably didn't see the importance of them. So I got together with a friend of mine who was a software engineer from Canada, and we talked a little bit more about this. And we thought, we could possibly do something here and a bit better than what our current employer was doing at the time, and that was the catalyst for it. And
what year was it, Malcolm?
Sorry?
What year was it?
Oh, I would say that's about 1991, 92.
All right. So it's quite some time. Okay.
Yeah. And so we decided to leave and start our own little company up. And we got down to the development part. We brought on some good people, actually. A few of them were graduates from Ottawa University who were qualified in this area. And we got going. And I'm an engineer by trade, but I turned salesperson from engineer because someone had to do it. Anyway,
that's what they call part of the evolution.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, I was used to talking to customers because I ran the tech support organization, but it didn't matter. Our quest was to try and make something of this. And we're at a position in our lives where we thought, if we don't do this now, we never will. And so it was just an opportunity. And at the time, we took a voluntary layoff because we could do at that time. But there was some resistance to us doing that. But we did. Hey, you offered, we're taking it. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that was part of the finance that sort of got us going, that we could pay salaries, and we ramped up the product. We're pretty aggressive on it. Then we started marketing the product to companies in the United States and Canada who were interested in reselling that product. It was basically information technology, by the way, to support voice processing
which was expanding. I mean, if you're looking at the early 90s, that's when the whole expansion started taking place. Yeah.
Yeah, but we leveraged the new operating system that was out at the time by Microsoft, and it was something that we knew would be sort of important to customers, and that's exactly what happened. So basically, the company grew from that point, and we eventually got a decent foothold in the United States, a little bit in Canada, and because we came to the realization that, international business is going to be important here. And we thought about it. He said, well, let's give this a go because it's a global product, we think. So we started looking outside of North America, and we became successful at doing that. Ultimately, obviously, there were hurdles, challenges along the way, all kinds of issues along the way, employee issues, all the stuff you would expect. But we took it internationally, and that eventually took off. We paid a lot of attention to it, and that probably what accelerated our growth. Now, I will be honest with you here. At the time, we had no interest in acquisition. This was our job. This was our career. We were enjoying it. And the thought of acquisition.
By acquisition, Malcolm, let me interject. By acquisition, you mean you were not interested in getting your company acquired by somebody else, or by you acquiring somebody else in the area, some competition?
Yeah, good question. No, we were not interested in being acquired by anyone else.
So the company is not for sale. You were happy with running the business, growing the business. That was your life, as you said. I mean, and you have, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't even in our brain cells. It never crossed our mind, to be honest with you.
Right.
We just didn't even think about it. Our quest was to just grow the business, enjoy what we were doing.
Right.
We grew the company to ultimately 145 people.
Right.
And most of them were engineers.
That's a sizable company for you. Yeah, that's a sizable entity.
Yeah, it was actually. We ended up bringing on some sales people, and we set up offices in the UK, Australia, as well, to help the growth. Eventually, we had to. When you spread your wings and go international, you got to have the support organization to do that.
The base was Canada, correct?
No. Yeah, Canada, US, and United Kingdom and Australia, who temporarily an office in Singapore. Well, I moved to Singapore for a couple of years in the beginning of the 21st century, just to start our growth in Southeast Asia. And that turned out all right as well.
Singapore is obviously a major hub. So from Singapore, you're right next door to everybody out there, from Hong Kong to Taiwan to mainland China, Thailand, Japan, what have you.
Exactly. And APAC and Australia as well. Because trying to do business remotely with such a 12 to 14-hour time zone different can get problematic, even though the technology is there to have conference calls, but
really challenging. Yeah, absolutely.
1 o'clock in the morning, So it made sense that we just did this. So I budgeted for this and set up an office in Singapore, and became a resident of Singapore for a while, and enabled us to travel around that vicinity. But the thing about what I found is in the Asian culture is face-to-face meetings are important.
Okay? Absolutely. I can attest to that. As you know, my main line of business is financial advisory. I spent just about 8 years as a financial advisor with Hong Kong Shanghai Bancorp. So in my extensive experience, I've been dealing, very, very, very extensively, and actively with Asian clients, and specifically from, both mainland China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. And nothing can replace a face-to-face communication.
Exactly. So you understand.
I can truly attest to that. It's very different culture. So as a minimum, it takes face-to-face interaction if you're looking to get any kind of traction and develop any kind of relationship.
Yeah, exactly. But our take on this was actually to approach established companies that we had a product that they could provide as an add-on to their existing customer base. Okay, because every company, every business had telecommunications to a certain degree, and we had a product that would be a good add-on. So we came across distributors, if you want, or dealers that we could partner with. So we met them, but we had another challenge, and it was foreseen, but to a degree, we had to translate our software, okay, and to the local language. But that's more complicated than it think, because you can't just put our product over in mainland China or Korea and expect the people at the desktop to understand what the hell we got on our user interface. It's just not going to work. So we had to make a commitment there as well. And we did that. So, we were in South America as well. We translated our software into two versions of Spanish from Spain, and the neutral Spanish in South America, which is from Chile, Portuguese to support Brazil, and two versions of Chinese, simple and Mandarin, and French, Portuguese, etc. The list goes on, and Dutch. So that's how helped our process. We had to do it. Is it cheap to do that? No, it's expensive and it's labor intensive, but you got to translate the user interface and the user guides and manuals as well. Okay. But we invested the time and expense to do that, and it was well worth it.
As far as the expansion goes, Malcolm, just give me the time frame from the launch of the company to, expanding in Latin America, you said, Western Europe, Asia Pacific. What is the time frame we're looking at?
Good question. I would say, well, Latin America came first because it was time zone friendly. It makes sense. And we landed up selling our developed product back to the company that we left. They wanted to license our product as well, which was a good thing. But they asked us.
I guess that was an easy way of doing business, right? So you already had some established business relationship. The company really, came to you saying, hey, we would love to utilize, your product, and that was an easy way of doing business. Yeah,
it was, and that helped us around. We had to dig up new business, of course, and we were on our own, and we didn't actually.
Of course, if you're looking to expand in the area and make it worth your while, because you said, hey, Chile is just where you're based, at least, as far as the, but then you want to expand to all the neighboring countries. So yeah, it made sense.
Exactly. Plus, we were also partnering with other voice processing companies as well, and so that added more to our plate as well. But Latin America was sort of our first one, and we just go down there and meet with the potential dealers, and it was all good. We had challenges along the way, especially with the cultural differences, but we figured it all out. Huge learning process.
Have you guys been dealing in places like Colombia? I mean, did he have to be engaged in any shape and form with the local, criminal, components of doing business there at all?
No, well, I would say this, not that I am aware of, but who knows? I've been to Colombia.
Well, good for you, yeah, because some of the businesses, again, I know plenty of executives, and again, they may be U.S. or Canada based, but they're doing a lot of mining in Central and South America, and protection of mines, and personnel working down there, both local and advisory personnel from outside those countries is a major expense ticket. So that's something that they include pretty much in every balance sheet whenever they come up with projections. I was on a conference call just the other day, and that was one of the questions that one of the attendees asked. Hey, you're speaking about the cost, the labor cost. That's all fine and good, but let's address the actual issue, of some criminal activities down there. So we would like to know exactly how much the company spends on protecting, again, not just the mines per se, but also providing the security.
Yeah, of course. And going to Colombia was a bit worrisome. I saw, some worrisome areas there, but I was a lot younger then, and I didn't, nothing bothered me, to be honest with you. And if there was any element of concern in Latin America, is when I went to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and because I cast my mind back to the Falklands War. It sounds really stupid, but I went to Buenos Aires, Argentina to meet up with the company there, and I'm a Brit landing on their shoreline. And will that conversation, I'm thinking, lead up to the controversy or the issue
Falkland Islands, or as they call them in Argentina, Malvina Islands, right?
Malvinas, yeah. And there's another element there, of course. I don't know if you're aware of this, Gene, the soccer teams from England and Argentina. There was a bit of a rub there. You don't know Diego Maradona's goal.
No. I remember. I was still a kid, but I remember passionately. He just passed away, I guess, recently, right?
And that much he did. But
may he rest in peace. But look, I mean, if you're talking about the fan club, I guess that was the man who commanded probably the biggest, fan club in the world. I mean, up to the billions. I mean, any part of the world you go to, either it's Europe, Latin America, anywhere in the world. I mean, billions and billions of people, males, females. It was just such a sport that would unite, both sexes and all the pretty much folks from all over the world. Fascinating life and career. May he rest in peace.
Yeah, well, you know what? One of the main things about when you do business overseas is I always learned a little bit about the history of a country before I went there, and I also learned a bit about the culture. Those two things are really important. Because when you go and meet a foreign company, showing interest in the way they do business and why they do business the way they're doing it and their history is important. It actually sort of kickstarts the business relationship, right? Now, especially Asia, they will not do business with you unless you have a good relationship.
So true. And as you pointed, I mean, the customs, the traditions, the customs, the traditions that different people throughout the world, I mean, they have, I mean, it's they can and they will directly impact the way that you can, if you can do any kind of business at all. I mean, I've seen live and I've heard countless stories where the people, representing some sizable companies, but they would not invest some time and some money getting training, proper training in local customs, traditions, etiquette, so to speak. And they would have no problem sitting in front of, high-level executive in Southeastern Asia, raising their feet, putting the feet, up and pointing the shoe towards the executive, on the other side. And as you know, it's one of the worst things you can possibly do, showing ultimate disrespect. So the obvious outcome would be no, and that's a shame. So it's a good thing that you have been able to acquire a lot better understanding, all those customs traditions that inevitably translated in the way that you have been able to conduct business, successfully, as opposed to a lot of competition that failed, in that respect. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I love it, actually. I love learning about foreign cultures anyway. Just that China was a bit of a strange one, actually, because I landed up being in a meeting and there was a board of directors in a row asking me straightforward questions about, so I didn't ever expected this, but anyway, they decided to take me out for lunch, and in their broker, he said, Malcolm, we're going to take you out for lunch to one of our local restaurants, one of our favorites. We're going to treat you to one of our specialities. So we had lunch, and a plate of chicken feet was put in front of me. Enjoy.
Look, I mean, when you travel to those places, I mean, it's a good thing they're not serving, intestines of 2-month-old puppy, because it really depends on what area you go to, and different people, they have completely different, understanding of what delicacies would be. What's a delicacy, for those people may be completely, opposite to the people coming from the US or the UK.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me. All I asked was, have you got any hot sauce? And that was it. I did it. Anyway.
Any kind of flavor, yeah. Let's do it.
It was all good, though. Worthwhile.
So Latin America, you touched upon that. Let's talk about your expansion in Asia. So besides mainland China, what other places were you covering for expansion in Asia?
I've been to India a few times, Europe. Actually, if I go back in time, because I was familiar with the United Kingdom culture, because we're a North American-based company, my first business were over to the UK, because it seemed like an easy catch, right? And so that was testing the water. If we could get a foothold in the UK, we thought this would probably be a good start. And that was probably a good idea at the time to do that. And, the British, and I say this with all due respect, could be a bit classed as being stuck in their ways a little bit. I am. It's all right. But we seem to do quite well there. So after that, we started to branch out a little, and because of the time zone difference, that's when we ventured into Latin America, which was all good. So pretty much on all continents, we eventually sold product into up to the time we sold the company, we had products in 70 countries worldwide.
Pretty extensive, yeah. That's pretty extensive network of your customers. Yeah, 70 places, 70 countries.
Our dealer network was responsible for selling these products into different countries. I didn't go through all of those, but we didn't have to. But even down in Australia, we had products in Australia, New Zealand, and a couple of the South Pacific islands. So I was fortunate. I got to go to Fiji a couple of times for work. Seems
not
like
too shabby, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Let's do it. That's where Fiji water comes from, right? Besides many other things.
All good. Yeah. But that's pretty much all over, to be honest with you. I didn't do much in Scandinavia. No, nothing in Scandinavia. Different culture up there, totally. We never really looked at that, mainly because we didn't think there was a huge market in that area. I don't know what we were thinking at the time, but we just focused on the areas where we thought it would be financially viable, we can handle. And that was it. So pretty North America, South America, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia.
Out of all those countries and places you mentioned, Malcolm, what would you say was the most challenging, marketplace as far as the area of the world or some specific country?
That's an easy one to answer. The country of India.
With India.
Yeah.
And who would have thought the business people, they all speak English, and but I guess the culture, what would you say was the reason behind that?
Yeah, they spoke English. Everyone spoke English there. I landed up going to India 4 times. I initially went to Bangalore to partner with a company.
That's a tech, yeah, that's an IT hub. That's like a Silicon Valley of India. That's where every kid, Indian kid that I can think of, billions of folks, that's where they aspiring, to get at some point in some different shape and form. That's why they get all those outsourcing offices. So when they call it a credit card or any kind of tech support, that's where you get routed. Bangalore, India. Yeah.
Bangalore, India. Yeah. That was my first venture into India. And I found a company I thought they were worth partnering with. It didn't turn out, actually. It's a learning experience. Not all the people we approached were successful. You just learn along the way. And that was my first experience of trying to do business in India. We decided to have a trade show together in Bangalore. But when I got there, it was quite evident they just weren't qualified enough to handle what we had, even though they said they were. It just wasn't. It didn't work out in the end. And so we moved on and focused on Delhi, and that was a bit better, but it was challenging. I've just found it to be a lot of, I'll call hand-holding, more challenging to support. We did do some business there, but not as much I would have thought based on, as you said, being a heavy into call center or telecommunications. No, we probably should have done better there. Maybe we made a mistake. I don't know, but that was probably the most challenging.
That's pretty interesting. When you look at the market, of what, like 1.2 billion people, that keeps growing exponentially. Unlike Chinese, they have no restrictions as far as the number of kids, the families can have. And you would have thought that that's going to be the market that's opening their arms and embracing, new technologies that will create, jobs, revenue for the local municipalities and ultimately, benefit the population. But obviously you have quite a different experience.
Yeah, quite a different. And it probably could have been better. Could have been partially our fault. We tried. And it sort of worked out to a degree, like I said, but it should have been a lot better. There are a lot of places we did well in. We did pretty good in Mexico, if I remember, in the Caribbean, for whatever reason, and places in Europe, and quite a bit in Asia as well, even in Singapore. I lived in Singapore for that time, but we did quite well there, and Australia as well. So you just don't know. Like if you wrote it down on a piece of paper, said, well, Malcolm, where do you think we're going to do really well over the next 5 years? Well, you could write stuff down, but it probably is not going to be correct because you just don't know, do you? And that's probably what happened. Like you said, India should have been good for us, but it never was. So anyway.
And on the flip side, so India was definitely not meeting your expectations. It was not really a success story. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, what would you say was the easiest place to conduct business, establish the network of distribution, and ultimately, create, the numbers that you were looking to create?
I would say we started in the UK first, so that was probably more successful, but Europe in general. But we picked up some quite good deals in the land down under, so that was good, and we did pretty good in the country of Mexico as well. What I can recall, but I remember the operations, the companies we worked with were geared up for success, and they seemed to know what they were doing. And so, all things aren't made equal in business, of course. So we tried, and some places were more successful than others. And we expect to do more in other countries, but the more we wanted to do or get into other countries, the more we're asked to translate our software into the local language, which became more challenging because it costs a lot of money to do that. And so, well, we're not sure if there's a real market there after all. We go through the expense in doing this, it's not worth it. So we back off a little. So there's all these things came into play. All in all, we had our product translated into about 7 languages at the end of the day, something like that. So, yeah.
Right. A lot of our audience, listeners, and viewers of this channel, Malcolm, they are entrepreneurs, executives. They're doing pretty well. Again, considering the circumstances, the whole world has been going through insanity, over the last year. Horrendous lockdowns that drove multitude of businesses, out and under. Hopefully with the distribution of vaccine, the things will be getting to some kind of normalcy. So as the companies, the businesses are looking to expand outside of the US, somebody with your level of expertise, and you're traveling pretty much all over the world, different marketplaces, an expert in so many different cultures by now, what would be at least some general guidelines that you would want to share with those folks looking to expand their businesses outside of the US?
My train of thought was, just because we're in North America, just because the economy isn't as good in our country, it's probably thriving somewhere else. Okay, so always be aware that there may be less opportunities where you live, but there more be some somewhere else in another part of the world. So that entered my head, and especially during the time of 2007, 2008, I believe. Our product, we had a good story to tell, in so much that even in poor economic times, you can't afford not to buy our product, and let me tell you why. Always have a good story to tell. Return on investment story, of course, 6 months, whatever it may be, always have a good story to tell. We took that overseas to areas in the world where they were doing quite well, and thereafter or looking to partner with companies overseas as well, for whatever reason. Just be aware that international companies are looking to partner with companies like us in North America or maybe from Europe. They're looking to do this all the time if it benefits their business, if they have add-on products for their customers. Yeah, it works the same overseas as it does back here in the United States. So it's a recommendation to do it if it's in your, I guess, head to look overseas for international business. I would say it's a must. It was definitely a must for us in business. And over time, as we spread our wings overseas and we had presence in a lot of places, all of a sudden we became this target for acquisition. Okay, because we grew the company, we had a lot of intellectual property, we had presence in several countries. So we became a target for acquisition, and we got approached by a number of companies. So anyway, that's pretty much the story over time. Don't be frightened to look overseas for business.
Again, you need to take a mitigated, calculated, if you will, risk if you're looking to really expand your company and maximize the ROI as you stated. And only, as you've been taking those steps with your partners, that's what really allowed you to get the company to the level that it presented a value to a major corporation that decided to acquire it. And at that point, I guess your position has changed, because, as you said, in the first few years after you launched the business, you really had no considerations, no plans of selling the business. But I guess when the offer is lucrative enough and you can exit that business at a number that makes it worth your while for you, that was the time when you and your partners decided to sell it, right?
Yeah, well, he'd had enough. He was a little bit older than me, a couple of years, but he wanted to bail. And I thought about it, and I said, well, okay, yeah, let's do it. And I had a sort of a plan B anyway, but I didn't do any. After all this went through, there's a long due diligence period, by the way. But after we got through that, I was doing nothing for 6 months, and I got really bored. And because here's the thing, I traveled so much on business, I was away all the time, not all the time, but a large percentage of the year. I didn't have much choice. And because I got so used to traveling, but it was to business hubs, capital cities, all that stuff. I love traveling, but when we sold the business, I had a more of a quest to travel to more off the beaten track locations in the world, which I still do today, to learn about foreign cultures. That's what I do now.
which leads me to another question. Money means different things to different people. A lot of people will agree that financial independence, which exactly what you acquired, by exiting the business, by getting paid for many, many, many years of hard work, and an effort you've been putting into launching and developing the company to the level you had. So at that point, you really could pursue your passion for traveling, not just going to the worldwide destinations from, again, Singapore to Paris to Frankfurt, Germany, and what have you. But I know that some of the destinations, they've been way, way, way off beaten track. And I'm talking about places like Myanmar, which is a new name for Burma. And I'm talking about Mongolian desert. And I'm talking about Shangri-La in Tibet. So yeah, let's spend the next few minutes and speak about why it really makes sense to work so hard, because, when the day arrives, where you can really become financially independent and pursue your passions without being burdened with the day-to-day responsibilities of an executive running that international company. so you can really enjoy your life as much as you possibly can. So please, don't be shy and share with us some nice stories, some experiences of traveling to those places.
I think it's because that when I started doing it, the more I did it, the more I wanted to do it, based on the fact because I came out of it alive. But
One piece, yeah.
Yeah, you just add a bit more sort of daring to the experience. Financial wealth doesn't mean happiness. Let me get that straight. It's nothing to do with that, in my opinion. But I wanted to learn more about foreign cultures in the world. So yeah, I trekked the Himalayas. I said to my parents when I was a kid, I said, Mom and Dad, one day I'm going to trek the Himalayas. And they said, yeah, okay. They didn't believe me, but I landed up doing that. And then I went to other places off the beaten track. I'm a scuba diver as well. So I like going to these real obscure places and scuba diving. But the more I do it, the more I want to do it. Now, this is my quest to learn more about foreign cultures, learn how the rest of the world works, if you wish. But now I found myself not employed, but pulled in on contract by not 2020, by the way, but ever since probably 2015 up until 2019, I got asked to perform enrichment and educational talks for various cruise lines. And a lot of that came about because of my traveling to far off distance land, learning about foreign cultures and destinations around the world, that I could go on board the ship and talk to passengers or do presentations about this stuff where the ship sails to. Made sense to me. So I do that not whenever they ask me, but whether there's a destination that I'm sort of interested in. But going back to your main subject, yeah, I've climbed the Himalayas. I climbed up the Tiger's Nest Monastery in Bhutan. I camped out in the Mongolian desert. Went to Myanmar, went to Palau diving site, Sibadan, and a few strange places like that. It was strange to some people, but me, the more I do it, the more I want. And I've even booked a trip for later on this year to a very remote area of the world. It's in Raja Ampat, close to Indonesia, off the west coast of Papua. It's a drop-dead gorgeous scuba diving site. Whether I go there or not, I don't know. I made plans to, but we'll have to see. So I always have to have something to look forward to. The reason I do that is because my parents always said, well, write a book, Malcolm, talk about your experiences. Well, I've done that.
Dude, you definitely should come up with a book. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason I did that was for a selfish reason, because when I'm there lying in the bed somewhere and I've lost my mind and they're getting ready to pull the plug, I can look at this book that I wrote and say, wow, this guy's cool. Who is it? Well, it's me. And I can look back and read this stuff, but it's also for my son, if he in later ages, when he can read about what his dad did, and God, Dad did that, and he's insane. Well, whatever he wants to think, that's fine. But my quest was to learn about stuff, but also, I live on a beach, and I can go to the beach at the weekend with friends and family, have a good time, drink a few beers, come back. But doing something like doing some of the things I did, these memories stay with you for a lifetime. You'll always think about them, because it's that sense of achievement, and it's about that sense of, wow, I actually did that. But I always remember the time when, all right? And you always do.
Yeah.
And
that's truly fascinating. And I totally applaud the idea of putting those thoughts in writing, and actually publishing the book, because look, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of millions of people, they're not fortunate enough. They have no time. They have no financial means of traveling the world. You have done it because that was, the first part of your life. It was part of doing business overseas, all those destinations, locations, parts of the world, from Latin America to Europe, Asia, what have you. And at this point, over the last few years, as you have achieved the proverbial financial independence, you can truly enjoy and pursue your passion a lot more extensively, going to the places where normally group tourists are not going, and you can enjoy it, and you can document it either through writing or filming, and I think it's going to be very successful. So yeah, definitely a lot of fun. So hopefully you're going to keep enjoying and sharing those fascinating stories with the people who are willing to listen to them. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I'm going to do it as long as I can. And yeah, I could at one time die on the job, so to speak. I just don't know.
Well, hopefully it's not going to be happening anytime in the near future. I do hope that you're going to be pursuing your scuba diving experiences. Either it's
2019, there's a remote diving area. Some avid divers will know about this place, Sipadam. It's just south of Borneo. It's extremely remote. And I was diving, and I was 60 feet down in the water. Beautiful diving.
deep,
My
yeah.
regulator hose disconnected. I was without oxygen. I came out of that. But it's a warning there. Luckily,
Thank God. Just be careful, be diligent. As you know, the second we came out in this world, we're exposed to the risk. So it's all about trying to mitigate the risk to the extent that we're capable. So I have no doubt that you have been skillful up until now. You will keep staying skillful and diligent and careful. So that's wonderful. Well, Malcolm, it has been a pleasure, having you on the channel. Some truly interesting and helpful and fascinating stories. I do wish you best of everything. I do hope to connect with you in the future. And to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. I do hope you enjoyed this segment with Malcolm Teasdale. This is Gene Panasenko on Straight and Unfiltered. Please subscribe. If you have not done it, please put a huge like to show your support of the channel. And we do hope to see you on this channel very soon. All right, folks, stay well and best wishes.